Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. I've been having some fun this morning making some more stock for the shop, and these are a really quick one to make. So I'm sick and tired of going out to the supermarket or just visiting or anywhere I go, and I have my keys and you don't want to lose them. You throw them in the bag and they end up in the bottom along with all of your other junk, and you've got to rummage around and find them. So today we are making a key keeper that we can sit on the outside of our bags, and it's for the bags that don't already have a little D-ring or swivel clip on them. So you might buy something at your favourite bag shop or just have a bag that doesn't have a key keeper. So these are my grocery bags, the supermarket shopping bags. I have those in the car, and whenever I go to the supermarket I either hang my keys off my pants or just hang on to them. But here is a tiny little keeper that holds the keys in place, and you can have the keeper so that it sits on the outside or the inside of your bag. So depending on how you have it, how you clip it on, it'll sit to the inside or the outside. So you can't see them this way. So all it is, if I can get it off, is this one's got a swivel clip on it, and it's got a couple of little plastic snaps that will snap closed and sit around the handle of your bag. So it will fit the 1-inch wide webbing. It will actually fit over a little bit wider as well, but they're really cool just to keep on your keyring and never have to take it off. So rather than finding a bag that's got D-rings attached to it or swivel clips, you don't have to do that anymore. Just use one of these. So this one here I've made with a swivel clip on it, and the rest of the ones that I've made have got just a tiny little D-ring, and this D-ring will sit over that, what are those things called? The split rings. My nails aren't strong enough to get this open, so I'll get Chris to put this on for me later, but I'm permanently going to have that attached to my bag, and then I'm never going to lose my keys at the bottom of the bag again. Nor will Chris, for that matter. Let's get straight to it. It's a really quick one. Okay, there's not much for this project either today. We've got one piece of fabric. It's the only piece of fabric we're going to use. We've got some little plastic snaps, and we've got some D-rings. Oh, and I also have a bias tip. Now, most people think that you can only use a bias tip with bias binding or fabric cut on the bias. This fabric is cut on the straight of grain. You don't have to have bias cut fabric to use one of these. If you have one, it'll be a fantastic time saver, especially if you're sewing to sell. Let's set all of this stuff aside, otherwise I'll end up with bits all over the place. I'm using a 1-inch bias tip, so that means this will be finished at 1 inch when the fabric is folded, with the raw edges folded in. So it's a 1-inch bias tip, and you generally double the width of the fabric that you need to cut. So 1-inch bias tip, 2-inch piece of fabric. To make this slide through the tip with better ease, I cut my fabric at 1 7/8 of an inch, and I will, what's that in centimetres? So that would be 4.5 centimetres. For these D-rings, we're actually going to use half of that measurement. We've got the edges of the fabric folded in. We just fold that fabric over one more time, and that's wide enough for the D-ring to slip through. So if you want to make this project wider, you certainly can go ahead and do that. Just take into account what size D-rings you're going to need for the fabric size that you're using. Let's get started. So if you don't have a bias tip and you want to just do this all by hand, what you'll need to do is take your fabric piece, and I'm using an entire length of fabric because I plan on making a whole bunch of them. I have got the measurements up on the screen if you only want to make one. Let's fold our fabric in half, and you'll press that all the way down the length of fabric, or for the short strip you might have. Then you'll bring the raw edge into the centre and this one, and you'll iron that as well. That's all you need to do with this piece of fabric. No more ironing after you've done all of that. If you have a bias tip, then what we're going to do is take our piece of fabric and cut a small piece off the end so that it comes into a point. With the right side facing up, feed the fabric into the tip and just grab something to slide that down so that the fabric comes out at the other end. And you can see on this side the fabric is already starting to fold. And then all you need to do is iron it. So this will continue to move on along the fabric, and you can see we've got the folded edge of fabric on the inside. So it is a fantastic time saver and one that I keep forgetting to use. This is also great if you're making bag handles, although you can't always get really wide bias tips. So I'm just going to continue folding this fabric along, and you don't even have to hold the tip. You can just pop a pin into your ironing mat, hold that in place, and then slide along like this. And then you just move that on down and continue until you're finished ironing that piece of fabric. So once you've ironed those raw edges into the centre, we don't have to do anything else with the fabric. If you want another way to do this easily without using one of these bias tips, what you can do is fold this fabric in half and mark the centre and measure that distance from the outside, and then mark a line all the way across the entire piece of fabric. So I've done that all the way up, and this will eliminate the need to iron the fabric in half first and then fold the raw edges in. So once you've marked your centre line, all you need to do is fold the fabric up to that line and press it in place. So that does save a fair bit of time, especially if you're working on one whole length of fabric. So this piece is about 1.12 m or 42 to 44 inches in length. It should give me a whole lot of these key holders. Once you've done that side, come back and do the other. And it doesn't matter that my line has disappeared because I'm using a friction pen. All I need to do is fold the fabric up to meet the other. The other question I'm sure to be asked is, can you use bias binding for this? I don't see why not. Bias binding is cut on the bias, so it's going to be more stretchy. But you might want to, once you open out your bias binding, maybe put a small piece of stabiliser on there, just a really light one, just to give it a little bit more strength so that it doesn't stretch out. But you can certainly use bias binding, and you could also use ribbon. You know, a nice grosgrain ribbon would be fantastic too. All right, So I've got my whole strip of fabric here. The usable portion of the fabric without the salvages is about 44 inches. So what I'm going to do now is cut my fabric strips to 8 inches or 20 centimetres. If you feel you need it a little bit longer, then you could make it 8.5 inches and maybe 21.5 centimetres. It'll be up to you, and it'll be determined by the width of the bag handle that you have as well. So I think most bag handles are probably under 1 inch in width. This is a piece of webbing which is 1 inch wide. So once you put that over like this, there's really good movement, so it's not going to be tight. And this one was cut at 8 inches. So I think 8 will be fine. So let's see how many of these we can make out of one strip of fabric. I'm going to cut off the salvages here. For each one of these that we make, we also need to have 2 inches or 5.5 centimetres of the same fabric. So I'm going to measure 8 inches from here out, and I've got 2 layers together. So that's 2, 4, and we can open that one out, and then we have 11 inches left. I've got 4 here. I need 8 inches of fabric to make the little loop for the D-rings. So I'm not going to cut this one into an 8-inch strip because I won't have enough strips left to do the D-rings. I do have extra fabric though, so I'm going to go to town and make a whole bunch of these. So here I have 4 pieces of fabric to make 4 individual key holders, and this strip here I'm going to use for the little D-ring holder for the tab. So we've got those raw edges folded in. All we want to do here is fold this in half one more time, and you're going to sew all the way along that edge and this edge as well. If you're only going to make one of these, you only need this by 1 inch. You won't need to worry about the rest. But I don't think you'll stop at just one. So I'm going to take that to the machine. We'll sew both long edges, and what we'll do with this one is bring the right sides together at the short ends. Just open out all those layers and secure the short ends, and we're going to sew right across that short end, and we'll do that for all of these. Let's go do that. I've got the folded edges and then I'll come back down the other side. And we can set that one aside for the moment, and then we can close the short ends up on our 8-inch strips. My seam allowance is about 1/4 inch. Okay, this is our tab. These strips here, all we need to do is open the seam or press the seams open, and finger pressing is enough. And then fold that raw edge in along the side. The fabric will naturally want to fold in because you've already preset that crease. And you'll do that for the other side as well. And keep the seams open when you fold that over. That way you'll have less bulk in the fabric at the seam. And then we're just going to turn that so that the fabric is facing out. where this seam is here, pinch that together and mark a crease at this end, or you can pop a pin in the fabric. We just want to find the centre. And line up that centre with that seam on the other side. We can just neaten up those edges so everything's nice and neat on the inside. Remove that pin. We've got that centre seam along here. Let's take this tab and we're going to cut 2 inches off that. Grab your D-ring, pop that over the top, and we'll just clip that in place. I'm also going to cut another piece at the same length. And for this one, I'm going to put a swivel clip on there. So not everybody has those little split pins on their keys, and not everybody wants to carry these with their keys. So if you want to keep this permanently on your handbag, then attach a swivel clip to it and your keyring can be attached, you know, when you're using it. So I'll do the same with the others. But with the others, I am just going to put a D-ring on. It'll be cheaper for me to make. And I also have a lot of small D-rings that I want to use up. I don't use them very often, so this is a great project to get rid of some of those unwanted D-rings. These 4 are all ready to be stitched up. Now these ones have got the clips on it. Before I attach the tabs to these fabric pieces, I'm going to quickly go and sew really close to the edge of the D-ring here, just so that it doesn't slide back. It's just one of those little things that annoy me when the D-rings move back all the time. So I'm going to stitch as close as I can to that on all of these. I'll go and do that now and I'll be right back. Okay, so these D-rings are nice and secure and they're not going to fall back too far. It also makes it a little bit easier to attach these now because you don't have to worry about the D-rings falling off. So we've got our fabric clipped together with the raw edges folded in, and you've got the seam line in the centre. All we need to do now is take this tab and slide it into the centre here, and you can push it up as far as you want it to go and hold it in place. And that's all you need to do. Slide the fabric in, hold the fabric in place. Okay, now we can take this back to the machine. We're going to sew all the way down this long edge and this long edge. And then we're almost finished. We just need to put some snaps in. Let's go do that. So it's not the end of the world if it's not completely centered, but it does look better that way. So I've got the layers of fabric here. We've got those raw edges folded underneath, and this is where we get to tuck them all away permanently. When I get to the position where the tab is, I'm going to triple stitch over that. And then we can turn that around and stitch the top edge. And that's finished that part. All right, now that we have these 4 ready to go, all we need to do is put our little plastic snaps on, and this is very simple. So what I'm going to do is make a mark at 1/2 inch or about 1.3 centimeters from the outside edge at both ends. You don't really need to do both ends, one end's enough. So I've made my mark at 1.3 centimetres or half an inch from the outside edge. Fold the fabric in half, grab your awl or something pointy, and we're going to poke a hole through all of those layers in the centre. So that hole is half an inch from the outside edge on both sides. So that's all you need to do if you're just making one. If you're making multiples, then grab the one that's got the hole in it and just lay that directly over the top of the one that needs a hole and poke your hole at each end. This way you don't have to waste time measuring anything, and if you're making a whole batch of them, it'll save you a lot of time. So that was quick. Now we're going to put our snaps on, and we need to have our end cap, which is this flat cap, on opposite sides. So on this side I'll have that facing out or up, and on the other side I'll have that coming from the underneath. So it doesn't matter which side you put it on. I'll pop that on one side, I'll pop one of the other bits on as well, and we'll clamp that shut. So on this side I'm going to place the end cap over here, and the other bit on the other side. So you've got an end cap facing up with the other end, and the end cap facing down on the other side. So when you put this on your handle, you'll bring that one over and that one over, snap those closed, and there's your little key holder with plenty of room to move. So it will fit a wider handle as well. So let's go and do all the others. So we've already got our holes marked. It's just a matter of putting these little caps in, and you'll notice that I've kept all my sets separated, because it's very easy to get them mixed up and to end up having the wrong bits and then they won't close. So I've also done a time trial on these, so I'll let you know how that's worked out when we finished putting all these together. So I think these are going to be a great stocking stuffer, great teachers' gifts at the end of the school year. I think they're just going to be a great all-round thing to use. I'm sick of losing my keys at the bottom of the bag all the time. So there we go, a whole heap of little key holders. We'll never lose our keys inside our bags again. Now, these ones here are made with fabric, so you can use scraps of fabric or whole strips of fabric. If you want an even quicker way to make these, you can use some grosgrain ribbon. So this is quite a stiff ribbon, not too stiff, but it's a really nice ribbon that you can work with. So what I have done is cut the fabric or cut the ribbon at 8 inches, just like I did with these fabric pieces. And I've sewn the strip together exactly the same as we've done here. And then I found the centre and laid that out flat. For the little tabs, all I've done is folded the ribbon in half and stitched down the long edges, and then cut that to size. So when I've put them together, this is what you've got. 2 layers of ribbon with a seam down the centre, the ribbon that's been folded in half so that we can create the tab, and I've put some plastic snaps on there. Ran out of red, so I've put green on there. So it's really easy to do with some good sturdy ribbon as well. I don't think a satin ribbon would be good enough unless you stabilised it, and then you've got ironing problems. So I would use a grosgrain ribbon or something that's got a little bit of stability with it. But yeah, whether you use ribbon, scrap bits of fabric, or the whole strips of fabric, you can make a whole bunch of these in no time. So what did you think of that? I really love these. I reckon they're going to do well in the shop because everybody loses their keys at the bottom of the bag. You don't just have to hang these on a bag, you can actually hang these on the keepers on your belt as well. So if you don't have a handbag or a bag, the blokes can use these too. Just clip it onto those little belt loops onto your jeans. Easy. I've decided to use the red one for myself. I'm going to keep that on my key ring from now on. And now I am never, ever, ever going to find my keys at the bottom of the bag because they'll be hanging up right at the very top. And of course, if I want to hide my keys inside my bag, I'll just clip it the other way. And they'll sit inside the handle of the bag. So if you're batch sewing these, the amount of time it took me to make a set of 4 of them from one strip of fabric was 23 minutes. That included the folding of the fabric, then the cutting, the sewing, putting the clips on and all of that sort of thing. So 23 minutes to make 4 of those. So that works out about 6 minutes per bag. I don't think these can sell for very much, and I think $5 for one is probably asking a bit much. I don't know. I guess if people really want this, they'll pay $5 for it, but I'm thinking I might put 2 in a bag, and it's either going to be 2 for $5 or maybe I'll make them 2 for $8. I'm not sure yet. Chris and I usually work in $5 and $10 increments in the shop, so I'll have a think about that. But the swivel clip, the tiny little D-rings and the plastic snaps, they didn't cost much at all. I'm not using any labels today. So for less than 50 cents worth of material, because the fabric is all scrap or free to me, I think 2 for $5 or 2 for $8. I'll put them into a little bag. I'll have a sign saying what they're for and see how I go. But I think these will make a great stocking stuffer, great gift for anybody really. So tell me what you think. Are you going to make these? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.